So I uploaded a video titled Endgame in Genshin, where I just talked about different sorts of endgame that I hope they add into the game one day. And before I uploaded it, I was having trouble with the quality of the video, and it took me a while to get it actually uploaded in a good enough quality that I was happy with. And while I was trying to do that, MTash and Tectone talked about this. It was an article on GameSpot. Genshin Impact developers talk endgame content and welcoming newcomers. Now, I went through this article, or I watched the videos, and as I was watching their reactions or their statements on what the article said, I don't even know why the hell they did this interview. It gave no information, and all it did ultimately was just make everyone upset. So anyway, let's go through some of the questions. Like, what did it say anything important at the beginning? Genshin Impact version 3.1 update has recently went live, and with it came the chance to speak with Hoyoverse developers over email to gain insight with the team's plans for the future. So if this was over email, that means that whatever answers that were given were definitely passed by the higher ups at Hoyoverse. So this is pretty official. This is a extremely official statement. Did it say anything else? We asked about endgame content, resin caps, costumes, and more. Developers touch on what's currently being worked on. Oh, do they? Do they touch on that? Oh, I'm pretty sure from what I've seen, they talk about what they're not working on mostly. They do talk about a little bit of, oh, we've got some activities like card trading and all that sort of shit that we're definitely looking at adding more of. Like, this sort of stuff just makes me upset. Doesn't matter. Anyway, GameSpot. Versions 3.1 and 3.0 are expected to be 1 week shorter than usual. In the future, will you be continuing with these shortened version lengths, or should players expect update releases to return to their former pace? Starting with version 3.0 to the end of 3.2, the length of each update will be shortened to 5 weeks, like they said, but a shorter update cycle will not influence the quality of gameplay and content. Please stay tuned. I actually don't mind this answer too much. I pretty much saw everyone be like, oh, this answer sucks. But hopefully, and this is hopium filled me, hopefully they're at least trying to see the response from the community and whether the community wants a 5-week update cycle, a 5-week update period. However, more than likely they don't give two shits about that, and they're going to utilize as much time as they can to make sure that they stay on track with making sure they have all the update content ready. So we'll probably move back to a 6-week cycle, and that's not too bad. Currently, the Spiral Abyss is the only true endgame content for players at high adventurer ranks. Are there any plans to release new permanent endgame content in the same vein as Spiral Abyss? Now, if you want to know my opinion on endgame, go and watch my previous video, Endgame in Genshin. I just talk about different kinds of endgame, like I said at the beginning. I very much like the second one, adding a floor 13, where it's just versing a boss. That's like super fucking strong. But I would expect something. What kind of endgame are you planning to add in future? Is there going to be, when we finally get to Natland, they're going to add some kind of wave mode or horde mode or something like that? Who the fuck knows? And that'll be the new endgame. But then they gave the answer. This is the thing that a lot of people are upset about. The Spiral Abyss is one of the most effective ways for players to test out their party composition and combat strength. If we design another type of permanent endgame that is similar to the Spiral Abyss, it might end up creating excessive anxiety for our players. Not everyone is interested in Musk Reef. This is probably the blindest response that a game dev could ever possibly give, because it's not like endgame players are saying, hey, you better add in endgame content and it better be fucking rewarding. Every single one of them has been saying, who gives a shit about the fucking rewards? I just want to test out the limits of my account and how strong my characters are. You just make it so that whatever activity you add for the end game is unnecessary. You don't need to do it. Then there's no reason for anxiety. I literally don't do Spiral Abyss half the time because it's not the sort of end game that I enjoy. I've always hated games. Yeah, I'm getting upset. I've always hated games that add a time limit as the difficulty, rather than making it so that the boss becomes more difficult. That's the sort of endgame that I enjoy, and Monster Hunter does that really well. Games like Punishing Grey Raven actually does it pretty well, even though they have a timer as well as boss difficulty increasing, and they also have bleed damage. I really enjoy when testing the extent of your character is going up against something that is really hard to beat. And it can't be hard to beat in terms of, oh, I hope I have enough time to kill it. It needs to be hard to beat because at any one point in time, it could just one-shot you and delete your character. That's the sort of shit I enjoy. It promotes learning the fight more, taking your time, and it promotes becoming a better player, because once you take your time and you learn the boss's mechanics and how to maneuver around them, that's when you start to notice yourself getting better and better and better, and that's when you start to get better and better times and be able to dish out more damage between the boss's attacks. That's the sort of stuff I like. If I was creating Endgame, I would do that. This is just so blind. I don't know anyone out there who is saying, oh, I really hope they don't add any more hard content because, man, my anxiety, it would just freak me the fuck out. Anyway, let's move on to the next bit. Just like the Genius Invocation, am I saying that right? TCG that we've unveiled in the special program for 3.2, we are also working on designing more interesting gameplay in future. As an open world game, Genshin Impact has a natural compatibility with various types of gameplay, which gives us confidence in the long-term operation. I don't even know what to say to that. I really don't. I don't think anyone out there started playing Genshin because at one point they thought that, oh, they're going to release a lyre one day and I'm going to be able to play music. Who the fuck started playing Genshin for that? That's not the main content of the game. The main content of the game is elemental reactions and team building. And yet, they don't want to build any content for that part of the game. They're like, oh, you have Spiral Abyss, there you go, have fun. Anyway, let's go on. Genshin Impact is going into year 2 with an ever-expanding roster. Some older characters might be left behind as power creep settles in and new characters become much stronger choices. Is there a plan in place to potentially upgrade old characters and make them more viable? I actually think this is a really great question on behalf of GameSpot, because if you go over to a game like Epic 7, they actually do this sort of stuff. They do a lot of buffing of characters and nerfing. Actually, they don't do nerfing as much, but one way that they buff 3-star characters in that game, there's 3 stars, 4 stars, and 5 stars, is some 3 stars can get a specialty change. And when that unit gets a specialty change, they get more stats, and they also get brand new moves, so their animations change as well. They get a new character design, but they also get extra abilities within their old attacks. So their attacks stay the same, they just become more useful. Doing things like that for a lot of 4-star characters would be awesome. Like, some 5-star characters don't make sense. They should just be buffed as far as I'm concerned. But 4-star characters, I think it'd be really cool if they started off being pretty bland, but you could go through a whole quest line where they unlock hidden power within themselves or something like that, and then their whole design changes and they become a lot more useful. That's a good idea as far as I'm concerned. People like Amber could use that. That's something that they should be actively looking into as of right now. But let's get into their response. I can't remember what they said from any of these answers, so this is kind of a reaction, but I have read these before, so it's coming back to me as I read them. If a character is only assessed by a single dimension of numerical strength, power creep could indeed be an issue. However, in Genshin Impact, the rules of gameplay are more impactful than how strong a character is. Therefore, new battlegrounds, new challenge levels, or even new team builds all have the potential to bring new life to existing content. Okay, Amber, Chi-Chi, Aloy, and Klee. Klee's another good example. She might be cute as hell, man, but give me a reason why I would bring any one of those characters. Klee's probably pushing it. but give me an example of when you would bring any of those characters when you have better options out there. There is very little reason, once you have certain characters in the game, to build a character like Amber, to build a character like Aloy, to build a character like Klee. Klee is very much pushing it. To build a character like Sayu. Even to a certain extent to build a character like Toma. So this is bullshit. That's bullshit. There's no better way of saying it. That's just not true. New battlegrounds, new challenge levels, or even new team builds all have potential to bring new life to existing content. Bullshit. It might apply for certain characters, but there are characters in the game that need a fucking buff. Alright, let's move on to the next one. Like, I'm not happy about that answer at all. The introduction of Dendro has created plenty of new ways to cause elemental reactions, but some elements have been left out. Has there been any discussion regarding the addition of new reactions for existing elements? For example, in future, could there be a new Geo and Dendro reaction? Now, I don't see this as being too big of an issue. But Geo should probably interact with Dendro in some way. Animo less so. I don't really know. Like, maybe Animo could cause a whirlwind. Who the fuck knows? I do think it's a little bit weird that Cryo doesn't have an elemental reaction, but I'm honestly okay with it. I'm okay with them not trying to add in too much, because realistically it doesn't really change too much for me. It would be really cool if Cryo ended up being super broken, or Geo and Dendro ended up being super broken. That'd be so cool, but they don't need to add it as far as I'm concerned. Well, let's read the answer anyway. We have no such plans for the time being. With the release of the Dendro element, the 7-element system has become somewhat complex. For us, there are other ways to increase the fun for players rather than simply increasing the complexity of game rules. That sounds like the weirdest sentence of all time in a video game, but alright. With easy and open rules, given some time, players will come to discover their own ways of developing builds. That is the fun of this game. The balancing of all gameplay rules is part of the team's long-term design focus, plus the team's experience and learning from player feedback in the long run are all important to maintain that focus. I completely disagree with the complexity of the system. That's just such a weird excuse. Like, what's going to happen if they add in a reaction for every single element with every single element? Maybe excluding Animo and Geo. What's going to happen? It's not going to break the game. It's not going to make the game too confusing. If anything, you could probably add another 5 elements, and that's when it would start to get maybe a little bit complex. At the moment, it's fine. So this sort of response is, I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. The world of Teyvat continues to expand, giving players so many more challenges to complete daily, domains, bosses, ley lines. Is there any chance we'll see a cap increase for original? This is something I am going to flip the fuck out about. Is there a chance we'll see a cap increase for original Resin or a quicker regeneration rate to allow players to take on more challenges each day? I am going to argue something that no one fucking asked. Weekly bosses should not cost fucking Resin. The more weekly bosses they add, the more it's going to cost each week if you want to farm every single one. You can only do them once a week anyway. Who gives a shit if it doesn't cost Resin? I don't understand why they didn't take every single boss that you want to do down to 30 Resin the first time and they only made it so it was the first 3. They shouldn't cost Resin at all. But anyway, that's not what the question was asking, so let's just get into the answer. Domains, bosses, and ley lines are important means to farm characters and weapon ascension materials, and resins are required to claim these items as rewards. No shit. Meanwhile, we're also providing more options for gamers to obtain character development items. For example, many character and weapon ascension materials can be obtained and redeemed from events that we run periodically. So that's a no. Thanks for answering the question, Hoyoverse. What a fucking roundabout way of saying get stuffed. Mate, there is not a single developer that plays this game legitimately that works for Hoyoverse. Because if they did, they'd be bitching about it too. They definitely knew when they gave this sort of response that people weren't going to be happy with it. Because people have been bitching about Resin since day one. As far as I'm concerned, Resin shouldn't even exist. I've always hated stamina systems in video games. Resin shouldn't even exist. Anyway, that's another issue to talk about. We'll just get on to the next question. Like, they didn't even answer. They didn't even acknowledge the fact that he asked, oh, should we get an increase? Oh, we don't think that we should. They just said that, yes, Resin is very important to the game. You're absolutely right, yes. Next question. New players may have... Oh, this is a good one. New players may have been a bit lost when starting the Summertime Odyssey event because they missed Fischl and Mona's first introductions. This also happened when Scaramouche showed up in Inazuma's Archon quest after appearing in the limited time Mondstadt event. Is the team considering adding a way for new players to see or replay old story-related content and cutscenes that only existed in past limited time events? I can't believe they didn't even throw us a bone and say, you know what, we are considering adding in some kind of downloadable content where old events are able to be temporarily downloaded so that you can play them and see the story content that you missed, but you won't get any rewards from it. You know how many people would probably do that? A fucking hell of a lot. Because seeing a character's introduction and how important they are to the story happening in an event quest is a big fucking deal. And then all of a sudden the event's gone. On one hand, stories from limited time events shall never become barriers to understanding and playing Archon quests. On the other hand, we're also working on beginner tutorial adjustments, client capacity optimizations, intelligent management of past content, and other optimizations. Well, yeah, I can imagine they're doing all that sort of stuff because I also play this game on my phone, or I did while I was moving, and I'm running out of space. To be fair, I could delete Punishing Grey Raven, but I'd probably sooner delete Genshin. And as our technology and capacity grow, we hope to have useful solutions that players welcome. One of them had better be DLC, mate. Because I'm going to be completely honest, Scaramouche's introduction should have already been part of the main scenario as far as I'm concerned. And a brand new player doesn't always know better to go to YouTube to look for Scaramouche's introduction. As far as I'm concerned, this wouldn't be something that'd be that hard to fix. All you do is put all of the old important event quests that people might want to replay for story reasons. You just put them all on a server and you make it so that if you want to download it, you can. Okay, so there's more. Costumes were added to the game last year, providing new stylish looks for some characters. How likely is it the Traveler becomes a recipient of one of those costumes? It would be interesting to see the Traveler in clothing that represents some of the regions they enter on their journey. This wouldn't even be that hard. The Traveler, when doing the Aranara quest, got a little flower wreath on top of his head. Why not just let us wear that? Make it a gadget. When the gadget's equipped, the Traveler will have it on his head. That's an outfit. It's not a great one, but it's an outfit. Let's look at their answer. It's an intriguing idea. Oh, is it? It's an intriguing idea to design outfits and accessories with regional characteristics for the Traveler. We don't have anything to share on that front, but we're always considering new ideas. So no, we have no plans. He's not even going to get an outfit, the poor bugger. I'll tell you what, man, they need to start listening to their community because the community's been asking for that sort of stuff before now. This isn't the first time that outfits for the Traveler have been brought up. Just so blind, so blind. They ignore the whole community and everything that we say because we're little sheep that will continue to play their game. It's just sad, man. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. As a follow-up to the previous question, Aether and Lumine seem to get fun little accessories during certain quests. We just brought that up. Like a mask or a flower crown. I actually forgot about the mask, but that would have been a cool little accessory to put on the Traveler as well. But they can only be worn for a short period of time. Have you ever considered turning these temporary accessories into permanent cosmetics? We've been discussing this question within the team and some other ideas similar to it. However, We don't have any news or details to reveal at this time. What was their goal? What was the point of doing this interview to start with? I really don't understand. This seems like a complete and utter waste of everyone's time, including the developers. The only person this is good for is GameSpot, because the amount of people that are coming to GameSpot just to view and get mad at this shit. Let's move on to the next one. On top of Genshin Impact, Hoyoverse is also working on Honkai Impact 3rd, Zenless Zone Zero, and Honkai Star Rail. There's been a crossover between Genshin Impact and Honkai Impact 3rd in the past, where Kaching and Fischl arrived in Honkai Impact. I played that event. That was pretty fun. I don't think they have Kaching in the game yet as a obtainable character, but she was a playable character and she was pretty cool. And Fischl is amazing in Honkai Impact. Are there any plans in store to do the reverse and bring characters from Honkai Impact 3rd into Genshin? I would love that. I'm sure a lot of people who've played Honkai Impact would also love that. What do you guys think they're going to say? We're going to find out. In terms of characterization, we wish to channel more effort and attention into creating characters from the world of Genshin Impact. If there are new opportunities for crossover in the future, we will be sure to share them with everyone. So this is more of an open-ended, but long story short, no. And then that's it. That's the last part of this whole article. We don't really care about adding in any kind of endgame. We don't care about fixing Resin. We don't know what we're going to do about making it so that when you see Scaramouche, you're not fucking confused. Like, I'll be completely honest with you right now. It's not going to stop me from playing Genshin. They didn't even throw a bone. I'm sure all the people in the community would have read all this and gone like, oh, we're going back to 6 weeks. Fuck. Oh, there's no spiral. Oh, sorry, there's no endgame content coming. Fuck. Oh, no. And by the time we get to the end, they throw us a bone. People would have jumped all over that bone and they'd be gnawing the fuck out of it because this community just wants anything. And they gave us fuck all. To be fair, I don't know why I expected any better. Just makes me upset, man. It makes me upset because there's just something that I really enjoy and it's not getting the love and attention that it deserves. Same as Honkai Impact, man. I really wish they made that game better because the story in that game, the characters in that game, and the way those characters play are fucking amazing. And yet, the game just gets to a point where I don't actively want to play it anymore because it doesn't feel fun. It just makes me think that Zenless Zone Zero is probably going to end up being the same kind of management style, and Honkai Star Rail as well. I'm really looking forward to Wuthering Waves. I've been playing Punishing Grey Raven for ages now. Unfortunately, I only play that on my phone because I suck at trying to play that on an emulator with a controller or mouse and keyboard because of the ping system. I really wish that they would rework the ping system in Punishing Grey Raven. However, Wuthering Waves doesn't have that. So if they're going to have the sort of difficult fights that you have in Punishing Grey Raven, but in a Genshin style open world, that's what I always wish that they would do with Honkai. I wish that they would get Honkai, they would take the story, they would take the characters, and they would take the playstyle of the characters and they would put it into a large open world with hard bosses. That would have been one of the coolest games ever. But we don't have that. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about this article. I think it's just hilarious that this article shared almost nothing other than the fact that the people running the game don't want to give us anything that we're asking for. They picked a good time to do it too, during the fucking anniversary that people are upset about because we got the same rewards as last year. What a great time to do it, eh? But I don't think the Genshin community has the motivation to boycott the game at all because everyone's ultimately too sucked into the game to stop playing it. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of this article and what you thought of their responses. I probably won't bother asking you to leave a like because this is literally just a video where I am screaming at my own monitor. So until next time, YouTube, I'll catch you later.